Okay, the second part of section 2-1 basically is all about histograms. A histogram is a bar graph of your frequency distribution. Basically, the bar's height reflects the frequency value of that class. All bars have to have equal widths, and there are no gaps between the bars. The vertical scale of the graph represents the frequency, while the horizontal scale represents the classes of quantitative data. So here are some examples to look at. We have here, this is the distance of discus throws in complete meters, and along the bottom you have under 20, 20 to 24, 25 to 29, 30 to 34, and so forth. And then again, the height of the bar is the number of students who had that throw. Here is another example in which we have the heights of black cherry trees. And in this case, instead of having across the horizontal axis the entire class listed, we just have the lower class boundaries listed each time, the 60, 65, 70, 75. Those are the lower class boundaries of each class. So in this first one, we wrote out the entire classes, but here we wrote out. And really, sometimes just so it's a little bit cleaner graph, we don't necessarily want to write out the entire class. Here is one for SAT scores, and you can see that it has that normal distribution to it. And this, of course, is the SAT scores for all the tests combined, because it goes up to 2,400. But you can see how that goes. And then here we have test scores, cumulative frequency histogram. So note how the bars go from small to big, because we're actually doing a histogram of a cumulative frequency distribution. And so by the time you get to the last one, that 30 should represent all of the data values together. And again, this is listed in classes for, notice how the classes went here. I know it's a little bit small, but that's 0 to 10, that's 0 to 20, 0 to 30, 0 to 40. So you can see this would be similar to this one here. Since it's 0 to 20, it's everybody that's less than 21. Here it's everybody that's less than 31, less than 41, and so forth. And so that's how that one worked. All right, so all we want to do now is go through a couple of examples of seeing a frequency distribution. Let us make some bar graphs, some histograms. So first off, here would be the histogram for the frequency distribution above it for grades. So a couple things to note. As I mentioned before, there's no real gaps between the bars. They should all fit together. You do not have to start out right at the edge. I gave just a little bit of room so that the bars would be more central to what's going on. Note that not every line has to be labeled. So here basically they're going by 2s, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. As long as you can tell, you don't actually have to label every one. Again, what you're trying to do is make it easy to read. But what is required is that as you go up the side and along the bottom, that each line represents the exact same amount. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. They do not match these numbers at all. The idea is this is going to go at equal intervals, and then I will put the bars on them as they're supposed to be. Here we have our classes, 50 to 59, 60 to 69, and so forth. And then you can see the height of the bars. So 16 here, that one's at 10, that one's at 7, this one's at 3, that one's at 4. And so we have a histogram. couple other things to note. Not only do I have the numbers along the vertical and horizontal axes, they are also labeled. And then the overall histogram is labeled. Okay, in our second choice here, we have tar and milligrams. There are only 4 classes. You can see the numbers there. And then here is that histogram. Couple of things to note is, first off, I used the lower class limits for my lines. So really, the first one goes from 2 to 5, or shall I say the first one starts at 2, the second one starts at 6. So 2, 4, 6, that's where the second group started. The third group starts at 10, so that's where the third group started. Also, you are not required to make each of the bars be only one bar or one grid line apart. So what I did is I doubled them up to make, again, I'm just trying to visually make the histogram easier to look at. And so in the first one, everything was 1 apart. In this one, they're all 2 apart. Equally valid as long as the numbers along the bottom let you know where things are. Here, I used the whole classes. Here, I just used basically the middle, if you will, between low values. So 2, here's the 4 that's marked, and that's 6, the next lower class limit, 10, the next lower class limit. But I didn't actually have to mark those. As long as what I mark makes everything legible, then I'm okay. And so, a couple of examples of histograms. And it's just a bar chart or a bar graph of a frequency distribution.